My name is Brian Molefe. I'm the Group Chief Executive of Transnet. I think the three critical projects that we are working on that have an impact beyond South Africa are firstly the Kucha port, which is being developed into a transshipment hub. I think the big thing in Africa with respect to maritime, the big challenge is going to increase the traffic between east and west, increase the traffic to Africa from east and from west. And so the transshipment hub gives us a quick win. We are at the moment ramping up the capacity of the port, buying equipment to allow us to handle 2 million containers per annum at the Kucha port. And these are transshipment containers. So vessels coming from the west, vessels coming from the east coast and the west coast of the continent will be able to drop containers in the southern part, the most southern part of the continent, for transshipment to the east and to the west. And so that is quite a critical project, and we think that its significance is that it will increase the volume of traffic of vessels from the continent to the continent of Africa. The second one is the Swazi Rail Link, which is really a quick win, which is just the building of a railway line between a small town called Molefe in Mpumalanga to Stokodo in Swaziland. But the significance of this is that it actually links about three countries, Swaziland, Mozambique and South Africa, because there is a railway line that goes through Stokodo from the port of Maputo, and there is already a railway line from Stokodo to Richards Bay. So this link is quite critical in linking the Mpumalanga area, Swaziland and Maputo as an alternative to the line that currently goes to Maputo through just the north of Swaziland, Machado Dorp and so on. This is quite critical because it gives us a quick win. It involves the linking up of three countries through this relatively short link that we need to make. And the third one, that is also a quick win that we're going to do, is that we have plans to develop a line from the Waterberg to Witbank for purposes of transporting coal. And this links into the Swaziland line, because the Swaziland line will be able to allow us to release the Emero line just for coal. And so, and the Swaziland line will be just a general freight business. And so the Waterberg coal will then be transported through to Richards Bay on a new 26-axle line that will be built from the Waterberg through a small town called Atlanta and to Witbank. And this will be a new line that will be developed. But the significance of this line is that it will allow us to link the town of Lephalale and Mahalapye through a relatively short line as well, from Lephalale to Mahalapye, that will still be developed. But the significance of that is that it links Lephalale and Mahalapye and the entire Waterberg coal line up to Richards Bay, including Swaziland and Mozambique, through a continuous line that goes into Mahalapye and links with the rest of the Botswana railway system, right up to immediately to improve the regional transport system. The problem with the financing of infrastructure on the continent and the way that infrastructure is financed on the continent is that the bulk of it, in fact, if not all of it, is mainly debt. And the problem is that there are very few people who are prepared to take an equity risk over a 10 or 15 year or 20 year period, which is typically the tenure financing for infrastructure. In fact, not only must you be able to take a 10 or 15-year period, you must also have a window in the beginning where there are no dividends because of the nature of the infrastructure. And I think that it is a question that we're going to have to overcome because to make infrastructure viable on the continent, there has to be an element of equity. There has to be an element of equity to reduce the cost of debt, but also to reduce the risks and increase the viability of project. And so we think that increasingly the institutions that can take equity positions on infrastructure are going to have to be our own pension funds that have a long-term view and that have a view or an interest in the development of infrastructure on the continent. And so the pension funds, government pension funds, and even private sector pension funds, but also in a lot of countries there are these contributions that people make towards pension which are mandatory, would have to increasingly look at taking equity positions on infrastructure on the continent. And that is sort of the basic structure that we have to look at, finding innovative ways of increasing the equity component of the investment in infrastructure. Secondly, on the collaboration on the continent, I think we have several organizations around collaboration. There is a port structure that we have that meets regularly. There is a railway, Southern African Railways Association that also meets. But perhaps what we need to do going forward is to strengthen these organizations, deepen the institutionalization of these institutions, because we strongly feel that the planning for infrastructure on the continent has to be a collaborative effort. It has to be done jointly, precisely for what you say, that it impacts on everybody. As Transnet, we participate in all of these structures that coordinate infrastructure activity at the moment, the railways as well as the ports structures. We need the greater coordination and cooperation as a continent, which makes the African Union extremely important for the coordination of infrastructure investment. And I think infrastructure development has to be at the center of the African Union agenda for the whole continent. But more importantly, I think if we could all accept that the quickest route to regional integration, the quickest route to the integration and the collaboration between an increasing trade between the different regions on the continent is through infrastructure. So if we can cooperate in putting infrastructure together, if we can have joint infrastructure projects that cut across countries, that is the fastest way to promoting intra-regional trade and to promoting free trade areas and to promoting the integration of the different regions on the continent. So firstly, integration of the regions through infrastructure, and secondly, the centralization of infrastructure in the African Union agenda will accelerate infrastructure development on the continent.
Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.